Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Drewski with Cryptid Warfare and Conspiracies podcast. Hope you guys had a blessed week. And yeah, guys, we have a good show for y'all coming up. This is going to be a little different, but it's going to tap into some good things with wars, ghosts, and maybe some cryptids. So, and a lot of history. So, you guys are history buffs, and you guys like Civil War and stuff like that. Take some notes. So, yeah, this is. I was actually recommended a friend. He's my friend too. So, but this guy is a history buff. This guy knows his knowledge when it comes to wars and stuff like that. So as D calls him, the war encyclopedia. So this guy knows a lot about history and wars and stuff like that. So other than that, guys, before I introduce him, yeah, if you guys got any questions or anything like that, you guys got any experiences, you guys want to chit chat or whatever, you guys want to be on the podcast, shoot me an email, cryptidwarfare@gmail.com. That's cryptidwarfare@gmail.com. Yeah, you guys can find me there. Hit me up. You guys got a story? Let me know. All right, guys. So I'm going to talk about a little bit who I have on the show right now. I work with this gentleman. He's actually a friend of a friend as well. Holler at D. He actually hooked me up with this fine gentleman. This guy's name is Brice Witherow. He is a awesome dude. Brice, I want to say, hey, bro, welcome on the show, man. I'm glad you're here. I've actually been looking forward to this for a while, man. So, you know, about everything that you're going to talk about. So, especially here, us living in like the middle Tennessee area, definitely like a lot of history, like when it comes to Civil War and, you know, and micro wars and stuff like that. So, but yeah, man, other than that, just let me know. Just basically just give us a little brief bio about yourself, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on the show, man. My name is Brice Witherow. I work at Nissan manufacturing plant in Smyrna with Drewski. I'm a firefighter on free time for the Elmville Volunteer Fire Department in Smyrna. And I'm also a American Civil War reenactor for the 9th Kentucky Volunteer Infantry. Do that about once a month. Very, very fun. I've been doing it for a while. But I've always had a big passion and love for history ever since I was young. After watching a documentary, World War II in HD, and my family, it was a military family. You know, my great grandfather served in the Navy in World War II. My grandfather on my dad's side, he served in the Navy in Vietnam. My step grandfather served in the British military in the whole situation in Belfast back in the 1970s.
Oh, nice.
And then my dad served in the Gulf War in the Air Force, also known as Desert Storm. So after their stories, what they told me, and then watching that documentary, my love of history just grew. And I've been studying so much throughout the years, and I've loved it ever since.
That's awesome, man. So you basically kind of like, as soon as you heard all that, you actually kind of like caught the bug.
Oh yeah, I definitely got the bug for sure. And studying mainly war, and there's so much stuff that's interesting about war itself. And I know it's brutal, it's deadly, it's upsetting, but there's so many different facts, especially when it comes to the Civil War, that is just insane of the amount of information and what happened here, especially in the Tennessee area. So,
I got you, man. Well, cool beans, bro. Dude, let's just get into it, man. I know you're talking about, especially here, like in Middle Tennessee, man. What got you into basically? I know you talking about how you basically caught the bug and you got the love for, you know, like the whole reenactment of war and studying and all that stuff too. What I want to know is, how did you get hooked up in the whole, like, being basically like an actor for like the reenactment, for like the role playing and all that for the war?
Yeah, so throughout the years of my love of it, what really got me more interested though was Stones River, which was battle here at Murfreesboro. There was one day I was looking online, just trying to find units to see, because Now I actually had money to buy the gear. So now I've always wanted to do it, but since I had the money, I was like, all right, yeah, I have some free time. I'm going to look around. And I found the Ninth Kentucky, which they were based out here in Murfreesboro. So found them, contacted them. Sure enough, I was in.
Awesome, man.
I've been doing reenacting since 2019.
That's awesome, dude. Well, what's funny is that me and my wife are actually from the West Coast, and when her and I moved here in like 2014, I didn't know anything about this, man. And then the whole like reenactment wars and stuff. But what was funny is her and I were driving on a Sunday or Saturday, and we're driving by the oh gosh, it was actually over by like the hospital, and then there was a another park over by like the old like police station. We see all these Druze dressed up, you know, kind of like the Confederate Army and then like the Union Army and stuff, and everyone's just chit chatting, eating hot dogs, having a good time. But like they look like they were set up, dude. And I was like, "What the heck is this?" And then after that, we actually pulled over and we asked somebody, and they actually told us, "Yeah, these guys are like, you know, like reenactments of basically showing the public on what's going on and like the war and stuff like that back in the 1800s and stuff like that." I was like, "Oh, that's a trip, dude." Yeah. So then after that, meeting you, and then you told me what you did. I was like, "That is so freaking cool, dude."
Yeah, putting on that gear, man. The wool. I mean, the smell, the gun smoke, the cannons, just everything. It really just puts you kind of in the back of your mind being there.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. Like being there in that period. I mean, there's several moments where I had that, you know, at the Battle of Perryville, we did a reenactment in 2022 for the 160th.
Yeah.
And I was a flag bearer and just everything going off because we were doing it on the actual battlefield itself. And we were actually falling back where the positions where the Union were, same scenarios.
Yeah.
And it really kind of took me there into that moment. And I was in awe.
Yeah.
But you don't realize how many people will actually show up to these events. I mean, there could be thousands. And from what I heard, when we did the Battle of Perryville, there's at least about 2,000 reenactors. And then the Battle of Chickamauga that we did about a year ago, we had close to 3,000 at least.
Jesus, that's awesome,
Yeah.
dude.
So a lot of people show up, but it's so much fun. And just smelling that gun smoke, I love it. Absolutely love it.
Do you ever because I actually have a couple buddies that are into I guess basically they have like their own like metal detectors. So are you into that kind of like treasure finding?
Oh
stuff
yeah.
Like that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%. It's funny you brought that up. Years ago when I was little, so behind our house there was actually a field before they started building more houses and stuff. Went metal detecting, you know, found a couple of washers, all that. But then I found 2 mule shoes, like actually like a fully intact mule shoe, and then half that's broken off. Then again, this is all farmland back then in the Civil War. So of course, you know, there'd be a bunch of horses, mules, donkeys, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that was really my first coolest find I found.
Yeah.
You know, doing metal detecting. I haven't done it in a minute, but I absolutely love doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah, because one of my buddies, Jared, I think he found like a cannonball. Oh gosh, some I don't know if it was a belt buckle or something like that, but he also found like some like brass and just like a bunch of stuff. But
do you know where he metal detected at?
Out there in Christiana somewhere.
Okay.
So
that explains it then.
I have no idea about where all like these hot spots are at, but I know at some spots I know it's illegal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, never do it on the actual battlefield because that is illegal. Like you have to have very, very special permission in order for you to actually metal detect on the battlefield, or you gotta like really know somebody, basically.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've always wanted to do it, but I'm not going to trespass and get in trouble for that. But you'll definitely find a lot of stuff, especially around here in Murfreesboro, because again, you know, it wasn't just the big battle that took place in '62.
Yeah.
But there was just a whole bunch of skirmishes that took place around the Middle Tennessee area, Murfreesboro especially on January 1st of 62. I mean, or 63. I mean, just throughout the whole area, like on the areas of I-24, close to where we're at in
Yeah.
Smyrna at work. There was fighting over there. I mean, it's just all over the place. So in little tiny fields, I mean, whether you had permission or not, I mean, I'm sure you'll be able to find something.
Yeah. Well, shoot, man, if you actually want to get into more like depth into that, for the listeners, like like educate me on this, man. It's really interesting.
Yeah. So first thing I want to talk about Fort Donelson. So this wasn't in Middle Tennessee, but this was up north in Tennessee, in Dover, Stewart County area. So this battle actually took place in early 62, actually February 11th through the 16th. Before then, the war was raging on, and the Union was just getting decimated by the Confederates. I mean, you had the Battle of Bull Run. Union got their butts handed to them. You had fighting in Kentucky, like Mill Springs, which is actually one of the major fights in Kentucky at the time, and Lincoln was just over it. It was supposed to be a 90-day war, but turned out to be a little more than that.
Yeah.
But Lincoln needed an answer. He was like, we need to find a solution. Tennessee.
Yeah.
So what he did, he sent General Grant, Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah.
The general we all know and love.
Mm-hmm.
He sent Grant and Rear Admiral Foote down to the area on the border of Tennessee and Kentucky, where February 5th and 6th is where they actually attacked Fort Henry, which is on the Tennessee and Kentucky border, Tennessee River. What happened that is that Fort Henry was kind of partly submerged in water at the time because it rained so much.
Yeah.
But the Union actually had about 17 ships, ironclad ships, which they were the big metal ships that they actually had, full of nothing but iron. The hull coming out with the cannons. They bombarded the crap out of Fort Henry to where basically there was really nothing left. And only 79 casualties happened for the Confederates in that. But Grant was actually able to land ground forces on to the Tennessee Valley. And they actually walked all the way down to what would be Fort Donelson. Now, the garrison at Fort Henry for the Confederacy was actually part of the garrison for Fort Donelson. So losing part of that garrison for the Confederacy, General Pillow, who was the commander general at the time of Fort Donelson, was like, oh no, crap. So they marched all the way down about 12 miles to the area of Fort Donelson, which was actually one of the major forts of Tennessee during that time. And keep in mind, Tennessee was actually a very important state for the Civil War.
Yeah.
And Lincoln even said, if you control Tennessee, you control the war.
Okay.
The reason why is because Tennessee was the heart of the Confederacy.
Yeah.
You had the state capital, the Confederacy capital, down in Mississippi. But you capture Tennessee, you open up all this airway and all this opportunity for the Union troops to capture the railroads, to capture any agriculture, to capture any important structures that could be of use for the Union military.
Why is that?
The reason why is because they needed Nashville, especially for supplies. They needed that as a supply hub because you control Nashville, you control the whole railroad system.
So basically, Nashville is kind of like the center hub of everything. You can control that. You're like spider webs off of it.
Okay. Yes, exactly. And that's part of the reason why Murfreesboro was fought. But Fort Donelson was the gateway into Tennessee.
Yeah.
So on February 12th, the Union gunboats, there's 4 ironclads and 3 timberclads. And timberclads are just regular ships that do have some iron, but they also have wood and cotton that actually protects the hull. But they're also able to carry troops too. So, of course, you had Grant and then Andrew Foote, the rear admiral. Grant was actually a brigadier general at the time, so he wasn't in full command. For the Confederate commanders, you had John Floyd, Gideon Pillow, which you'll hear that name quite a bit, and then Simon Buckner. He was kind of well known, not really. Some small fighting took place between the gunships and also the fort from the 12th to the 15th, with a little bit of land action. Now, February 15th is actually when some of the major fighting took place, where Buckner's army did a counterattack. Okay, they were able to actually defeat part of Grant's army a little bit to open up that escape route into Nashville, because that's what their plan was. They lose the fort, okay, go to Nashville, run. Here's the thing. Grant was away at the time, but whenever you heard about what was going on with his men fighting Buckner's army, or Grant turned around, like, oh crap, pushed his troops over to where the fighting was able to kind of close off that escape route. Buckner sent his troops back to the fort, where he then signed the unconditional surrender, and that is where General Grant got his name.
Okay.
General Ulysses Unconditional Surrender Grant.
Okay, it makes sense.
Exactly. And this was the battle that actually happened for that.
Yeah.
Now, Buckner was actually captured there in Fort Donelson. So he wasn't in any other part in the war. Like, oh, well, I'm done. So, but Gideon Pillow, you'll see him a lot. He actually made quite a few mistakes during the war, and this is actually one of them right here, was losing Fort Donelson. A big mistake for him.
Yeah.
But there in the ironclads, there was actually two that were heavily damaged during that whole fighting, because you had an upper section of the fort and you had a bottom section. So there was at least about maybe 7 guns that were firing onto the ironclads, while you had the ground troops kind of going around and trying to, fight the Confederates into the fort. But Dover was entrenched. The whole city was entrenched by the Confederates. And if you actually go up there to Fort Donelson, you can actually see some of the earthworks that are still there.
Yeah.
A lot of them are actually still there. Now, you can't really go on them because they're protected, by the park and everything, but it's really neat to actually see. And especially you drive by houses, entrenchments, and you have signs right there that actually show where the positions were, the Confederates of each regiment that was there. I mean, it's insane. Now, this was the Western theater of the war.
Yeah.
So you had the Eastern theater like Virginia, Maryland, Gettysburg, right? But the Western theater was a little different. It was actually more of a key theater for the war itself, because you had major states, Tennessee, you had Mississippi, Battle of Vicksburg being one of them. You had Georgia, Sherman's March to the Sea. And you have different uniforms when it comes to the Western theater, to bring up, in that aspect. Of course, you had your standard issued uniform, what the Union had. You had your blue jacket, sky blue pants, your brogans, your belt, your cartridge box, your ammo box. But you had 2 different hats that you would see in the Western theater. You have obviously your standard issue cappy, your standard brim hat. You had one cappy that this part right here was actually a little bit taller.
Yeah.
Can't think of the name of the actual hat itself right now. A specific name, like a brim hat, I think, or something. But you also had hats like these that were kind of like your, farm hat, your
hat,
straw hats. Yeah, exactly. The reason being is because part of Grant's army, and also each army in the Army of Tennessee, Potomac, and stuff like that, a lot of regiments were farmers as well in the Union.
Yeah.
because you had regiments from Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky that served in the Union, and they would bring their hats from home to fight in. So that's
Gotcha.
why you'd see a lot of these in the Western Theater, and a lot of hats like these. Um, so that's actually one thing that sure a lot of people don't know about, of why a lot of soldiers, a lot of units actually wore different hats. And my unit, the 9th Kentucky, had hats like these because again they were from Kentucky.
Yeah.
And also when it came to the winter months, especially in Fort Donelson itself, it was cold. And one thing is that you had what was called a greatcoat. Now, greatcoats was actually a long, thick jacket, what it is, that would actually keep you dry from the snow, from the rain, and warm. And trust me, they do keep you warm.
Yeah, field tested. Yeah.
So this is what it is right here.
Okay.
So you see the thicker layer.
Yeah.
Kind of keeps you warm. And then on the back, it actually there's a hood
Okay.
to keep you dry. So men will wear this throughout the winter months, sitting by the fire, hanging out in camp. But on the afternoon of February 15th, at Fort Donelson, part of the Union soldiers and the Army of Tennessee, Grant's Army of Tennessee, dropped their greatcoats because you know how it was warm this week?
Mm-hmm.
It was warm on February 15th, and it was actually, in one account, around the 60s.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was pretty warm, especially up north in the Tennessee, Kentucky area, because that gets really, really cold.
Yeah.
What they didn't know, because a lot of soldiers did not know the weather of Tennessee.
Yeah. Those of you that
So
live here, you guys know what's up. Yeah, we know what's up.
Yeah, exactly. So we know what the weather is like here, but a lot of the Union soldiers did not.
Yeah.
So when they dropped their greatcoats and put it in a pile and went on to fight in the 15th and 16th, February 16th, it dropped way down in temperature. I'm talking about in the 20s.
Yeah.
So a lot of the men actually died from frostbite, from hypothermia.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a little dumb on their part.
Yeah.
But again, they didn't know because a lot of them aren't from Tennessee. But you had 20,000 men from Tennessee alone join the Union. So those men actually knew what the weather was like. So
yeah, you kind of figured like, if you're fighting in a war, but to me, I would try to find out who's from what state, and then if we're in their home state,
Yeah.
try
that's
collect
actually
intel, stuff like that. Like, hey, freaking old Timmy over here still has his coat. I'm gonna have my coat too.
It's like, oh well, he's doing it. I guess I'm doing it too. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a bad mistake.
Yeah. Oh man, that would suck too, man. Because the weather freaking sucks. Yeah, just.
I mean, especially in the Battle of Fredericksburg too. I mean, you had a lot of men wear those coats as well. I mean, because it was freezing, and that was in December.
Yeah.
Of '62. So I mean, it was early December, but still, I mean, it gets cold over in the Maryland, Virginia area. So a lot of them wore those coats. Of course, you're trying to run about a mile across the field in Mary's Heights. You probably be a little warm, but yeah, the winter months, especially around here in the South, gets definitely kind of cold.
Freaking cold,
especially up north.
It is a different type of cold, man. Because I'm actually used to the West Coast cold. It's dry.
Yeah.
And then when I moved here, man, it's so freaking humid.
Mm-hmm.
Gets in your clothes. It's freaking cold, man.
Yeah.
It's a different type of cold, bro.
And you would imagine that in the summer months here in Middle Tennessee, because you actually had some fighting here as well before Stones, because you had the capture of Murfreesboro right here, where the Union actually captured the square right here. Okay, and that was actually in the summer. So they captured the square, and there's actually a picture on a plaque that actually shows Union troops occupying that area. And so They captured that, and it was in the summertime too. So you'd imagine that it was humid, wearing the dark blue suits, the wool, that I wear and stuff.
Mm.
It gets hot. Trust me, it gets hot. I mean, especially down in Georgia. But yeah, you'd imagine how those men felt when it came to the humidity. Especially in here in Middle Tennessee and Tennessee in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, after get back to Fort Donelson. After Donelson fell, they went and captured Fort Defiance in Clarksville.
Yeah.
But not a single shot was fired there
Okay.
because those men at Fort Defiance, and it was in this long little line because you had Fort Henry, Fort Donelson, Fort Defiance.
Yeah.
Okay. The men in Fort Defiance actually left and went down to Nashville.
Okay.
They heard what was going on over in Fort Donelson and heard what happened to Buckner, what happened to the men, and like, oh no, we can't have that happen.
Yeah. Like,
Went
we're
back
out.
down to Nashville. Exactly. Like,
We're out.
and they left part of their stuff too. But Donelson was one of the major battles that actually happened. Grant's Army of the Tennessee and the Confederate Army of Central Kentucky.
Yeah.
Army of the Tennessee had a strength of 24,000. The Army of Central Kentucky only had 16,000.
Okay.
Here's where it gets interesting. The amount of casualties. Okay. So the Union had 2,000 casualties, while the Confederates actually had 13,000.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, the actual exact number is 13,846 was the amount of casualties that the Confederacy had at Fort Donelson alone.
Why is that?
Part of it is because majority of them were captured.
Okay.
Only 327 were killed in that, but about 9,000 were captured at Fort Donelson after Buckner surrendered the fort to Grant's army. So they took the prisoners, put them in military camps.
Gotcha.
And one of them being, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. What were you going to say? Finish up.
Some of them were actually part of contraband camps.
Gotcha.
As well,
okay.
Which are small little camps. Some of them were actually Union, but there's also small prison camps, somewhere here in Tennessee, but majority you would find them in the Eastern Theater or one brutal prison camp that was actually a Confederate prison camp that held Union POWs was Andersonville.
Yeah.
Okay,
so quick question. So what's the difference between standard issue when it comes the military when it comes to the Union and then the Confederacy? Did the Union have better standard issue weapons, clothes, stuff like that compared to the Confederacy?
Oh yeah, 100%. And a lot of the men from the Confederacy actually brought what they had from home. So a lot of their jackets, a lot of their guns, especially, like some of them even had hunting rifles.
Yeah.
I mean, so they literally grabbed what they could and went to battle and formed regiments like the Army of Northern Virginia, for one, the Confederate Army of Tennessee, the Army of Georgia. So yeah, and that's why you see a lot of the butternut gray is what it's called, the tan kind of uniforms. That's what you see a lot of. And a lot of their ammo, a lot of their caps and stuff, they're actually percussion caps, with little wings on it. They actually made it, ignite better. Now, at the beginning of the war, especially in Battle of Bull Run, some soldiers were still using flintlocks.
Okay.
From the Revolution.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That would suck.
Mm-hmm. So you know how much of a punch it actually can impact you when it comes to that rifle right there with a flintlock rifle. But later in the war, around 62, is when the Confederates started having better rifles, where some of the units were actually getting standard issue rifles, Springfields, Enfields. But for the Federals, the Union, they were issued better equipment, better rifles, because of all the factories that were actually up north and like in the Massachusetts, New York, Pennsylvania areas.
Yeah.
So they were able to get better infields, better Springfields, better revolvers, better cannons like the howitzers, the Parrott rifles. Which, if you don't know what a Parrott rifle is, there is one at Stone's. It's a cannon that actually has a long barrel.
Yeah.
Well, a howitzer is like a standard issue, cannon, like a standard cannon, basically. And then a cannon that you'd see a lot throughout the war is Napoleon.
Yeah.
Napoleon
yeah,
cannon that kind of has like that groove at the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you ever see a cannon and see that groove, that's a Napoleon.
Gotcha.
But the Union were very better equipped. And yeah, I mean, I wear the uniform, so yeah, they definitely were for sure. And they used the same tactics. And bringing up Napoleon here, both armies used the same tactics from the Napoleonic War.
Yeah.
The movements, the lines, the squares. I mean, if you see some units doing squares to fight off cavalry, same exact thing what Napoleon did in the Napoleonic War. And the uniforms were blue because of the French.
Yeah. Ah, roger that. Okay. I gotcha. That's pretty slick there.
Oh yeah, a little bit of information for you there.
So I'm actually roll it around and bring it back to you. Out of all like the reenactments you did, has there been any traveling or anything like that, or have you just strictly just did it here in Tennessee?
Oh no, there's definitely been some traveling. I've been down to Georgia quite a bit. I've been out to Kentucky quite a bit. I like the Battle of Perryville, the Battle of Mill Springs. Traveled to those. The Battle of Resaca and Kennesaw Mountain down in Georgia. Good little hauls, but beautiful when I drive. I mean, because there's a lot of small towns that I pass through, and a lot of open fields, a lot of like good areas. But Kennesaw Mountain has to be honestly one of my favorite fields.
Yeah.
Because it is absolutely beautiful. And when you go on top of the mountain of Little Round Top or Little Kennesaw Mountain, you can actually see part of Atlanta.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Because it's right there close to Atlanta. But Kennesaw has to be probably my favorite because there's so much there. And a lot of people go hiking there, or a lot of people go walking because the trail that leads up to Little Kennesaw Mountain. I took a picture one morning when we were doing our living history. It was actually the first time being there.
Yeah.
Of the cannon and also the carriage in the back that actually carries the ammo and stuff. Took a picture when the sun was coming up from the tree line and just shining and then showing the cannon. I was like, whoa. I was like, I gotta take that picture. It felt different because it felt like, waking up in the early morning on a battlefield, about to fight. It's just like what you see in movies, like in Gettysburg, and stuff. It's just that right there is one of the reasons why I love it, because of the traveling, seeing all the different places, seeing all the different sites, battlefields.
Yeah,
I mean it's something not a lot of people get to do.
Yeah, you're right, man. You're absolutely right. Like, because I had no freaking clue this stuff like even went on.
Oh yeah. Fort Donelson, like I said, especially if you ever get a chance, definitely go up there, check it out. And the thing about the fort itself is that it's not what it looked like.
Yeah.
Because the pictures and the paintings that actually had the fort, like whenever the war was going on, no more. There's no evidence of what the fort actually looked like.
Yeah.
So when you get there, like, oh, there's like kind of like square little mounds where the cannons are and stuff, but it's just that's not what the fort looked like.
Yeah.
I mean, the cannons are in the right position, pointing out into the water, but the fort itself is just it's not there.
It's gone. It's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I got you, man. I got a quick question. You ever heard of wrote down some notes. You ever heard of Nathan Bedford Forrest?
Yep, yep. I sure have.
Okay. Go ahead, keep going.
He was something. Forrest not only was a great tactician and
Yes.
really a good general all in all when it came to cavalry. The Battle of Spring Hill over
Yeah.
here was actually one of Forrest's main cavalry raids that he did here in
Yeah.
Tennessee. And well, he's from Tennessee.
Yeah.
But while the fighting was going on, when Union troops actually spread out like a wildfire throughout Tennessee after Donelson was opened up. And once Donelson opened up, Union troops actually started pouring in and actually started capturing major cities like Nashville, Murfreesboro, Memphis, Knoxville. Started capturing all these major cities. And then Battle of Spring Hill, it was 63, 64. And that's one of Forrest's biggest campaigns right there. He didn't make a lot of mistakes, but he was a good tactician.
I gotcha. Well, the reason why I bring that up, I'm actually going to send you this video. Since this is a Conspiracies Encrypted podcast, I was listening to this one a Confederate guy. I guess somebody like found this journal of this of basically of the soldier, and he actually signed up exactly at the same time that Nathan Bedford Forrest did, and he went through the military with him. But I guess Nathan Bedford just totally just went up in ranks, dude, like quick, right? So anyway, so years gone down, I think it's like 1862 or something like that. They actually fought over at Fort Donelson. Okay. And then this is during like the wintertime. Well, I guess the battle also, they went into like Shiloh, Tennessee. Okay.
Grant's army of Tennessee actually moved down to Savannah, Tennessee, and Shiloh was actually, giving you an insight on that. Shiloh in that time was the biggest battle of the war.
Yeah.
And so much brutal fighting took place. At the end of it, newspapers were going around America and stuff, and a lot of the American civilians were like, "Oh my God, this is the war we're fighting? Holy crap!" Because you know how many casualties took place at Shiloh?
No, how many, bro?
23,000.
Gosh, man.
Yes, 23,000 casualties happened at Shiloh in Savannah, Tennessee.
Dude.
Here's the thing about it is that Grant was actually staying there to kind of rest his men, resupply, because he brought his gunboats down, his ironclads, same ironclads of what you saw at Fort Donelson. One of them being the USS Cairo, which is one famous ironclad that took place during the war. So you had your gunboats capturing Tennessee, opening up that valley, moving his troops all the way down the Tennessee Cumberland River, staying there at Shiloh to refresh. On the morning of April 7th, General Johnson's men opened fire on part of Grant's forces.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Because the Union command told Grant, like, hey, do not fire a shot. You wait for reinforcements and then you move down to Corinth. That didn't happen.
No dice. Yep.
Yeah, General Johnson's men were waiting for him. Albert Sidney Johnson. Fighting took place April 7th. And I actually had been on one of the most brutal sites at Shiloh when doing a reenactment. It was actually where the sunken road is over there on Ruggles Battery location. Now, General Ruggles was actually a commander for the artillery, having 53 guns positioned in one area.
Jeez.
So you have the guns here. You had the Union infantry on that tree line where the sunken road is, and they called the hornet's nest. Now, there's different hornet's nests and there's different sunken roads.
Yeah.
Because you have a sunken road in Shiloh, you have a sunken road in Antietam. But while General Ruggles' men were firing onto the Union position, they were just taking cover behind the road under the tree line and stuff, and tree branches firing over their head, exploding. Mm-hmm. That's why they called it the hornet's nest. Yeah. Is because the cannonballs were shooting over the soldiers' heads, and it sounded like angry hornets in one account.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there, if I remember correctly, there's at least about 1,000, 2,000 casualties happened in that spot alone.
Yeah.
But then you have areas like the Bloody Pond, Shiloh Church, where some of the most intense fighting actually took place in that area as well, where a good 5,000 or so were killed, wounded, or missing in that one spot. But Shiloh was a key point in itself too, because if Grant's army was destroyed, the same army that fought in Fort Donelson, if his army was destroyed, there would have been no chance of trying to capture the rest of the South.
Yeah.
Because, Grant's army done. All right, forget it. Forget the Western Theater. The only option is going through Alabama or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case. When Grant saw the carnage on the first day of the Battle of Shiloh, he's like, oh my God. But here's where the Confederates messed up. Because Fort Donelson was a Union victory, and Shiloh was a Union victory.
Mm-hmm.
Major Union victory, actually, for Shiloh.
Okay.
Because the one mistake what the Confederates did was actually raid the Union camp.
That's pretty. That was actually. It's pretty ballsy.
Exactly. At first, when the morning of the April 6th started, Confederate troops actually opened fire onto the camp. Okay, where most of the men were actually hanging out, resting. And as the troops were falling back, Confederates raided it. They literally took the food. They stayed in camp like, hey, we took it. Woo.
Yeah.
Union troops were able to reinforce, and they did a counterattack against Johnson's men on the next day. And this was only a 2-day fight, April 7th, April 8th.
Yeah.
And, well, that turned out not too good for Johnson.
Yeah.
But General Johnson, though, there's two General Johnsons, but the one that fought at Shiloh was actually shot in the leg while on horseback on the second day or the first day of the fighting, and shot a main artery. He didn't realize it, but blood was actually running down into his boot.
Mm.
And then where he fell off his horse and died right there.
Yeah.
The first major general to ever be killed in battle in a war.
Yeah.
And then after Grant captured Shiloh, went down to Corinth and just kept on going and going and going. But Shiloh was the battle, or I'm sorry, it was actually Vicksburg. The Battle of Vicksburg was the battle that made Grant commander of all Union forces in the war. And this happened in 1863.
Yeah.
And Vicksburg is down in Mississippi.
Okay, yeah. So that okay. I'm following you. But anyways, but the reason why I brought that up, I just wanted to make sure because you're the freaking dude to ask. But there was this diary that this Confederate soldier had on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where the heck they found it, but I will send you the episode. It was really interesting. So going back to what I was saying, so basically it was actually labeled the remarkable Civil War Bigfoot encounter. Okay, you heard of that?
I have heard or seen a couple of accounts before of Bigfoot, but I have not heard of that story.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you like the cliff notes and then I'll send you the whole episode. Basically, this guy is reading through this guy's diary. So basically, in a nutshell, this guy joins the Confederate Army. Well, Nathan Bedford Forrest was literally in front of him in line when they were signing up, right?
Yeah.
So he got to know him pretty good. They went through the ranks of each other. They went through all that stuff. But anyways, yeah. So he got split up. He went one way. This Nathan Bedford went this other way and promoted. So anyways, yeah. So basically, like a couple years down the road, in 1862, he fought over at Fort Donelson, and then during the wintertime over at in like the Battle of Shiloh in Tennessee, and then
Yep.
he went down over to Brice's Crossroads. You ever heard of that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So anyways, yeah. Okay. So keep following me.
Well,
So yeah.
one little
Go
good fact. You know how Bryce's Crossroads is spelled?
go ahead. Tell me.
My name.
About what?
It's spelled like my name.
Yeah.
Brice. That's
That's a
I,
trip.
yeah. That's actually the reason why I learned about that battle is because of that.
Yeah. And Brice's Crossroads. Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny you said that. It reminded me of you, and I was writing down notes. So anyways, yeah. So this guy just got in this firefight with with the Union and all that. So what happened was he was actually taking cover like behind a tree, bracing his rifle on a tree. Cannon fire was going on. It shot and it hit the tree. It hit his buddy, but it also hit him, and debris and everything hit him. That soldier was badly injured, but he also passed out, right, from his injuries. He woke up like later on, like that night, and like everything was quiet, right? Well, he kept hearing like leaves crunch and stuff like that, and he thought it was like the Union kind of like swooping in, checking for
Yeah.
bodies and stuff like that. Well, he passed back out, and then he literally woke up with something pulling his leg, right?
Oh
And he
God.
looked up, yeah, and he looked up, and he saw like these tree trunks for legs, right? And he looked up and he saw this 8 to 9 foot beast, he said, over his head looking at him. And then his leg was getting pulled at the same time. Of course, it was injured, so he started screaming.
Yeah.
And he looked over and he saw 2 more Bigfoots. Well, he called them beasts, pulling on his leg, just seeing if he was all right. That's what he was thinking. So
Yeah.
he was hurting. So they actually backed off, and this female beast came up and started kind of stroking his leg. So then he passed out, and then he woke up with him slung over one of this beast's shoulders as he was walking. And he said that they were going so fast, like he was so surprised, like he couldn't hear anything, but they were
Yeah.
running so fast through the field, right? So anyway, so after that he passed out again, and then he said he woke up and he looked around and he saw roots. Uh-oh. Still there, Brice? Hold on. Okay, anyways, yes, like I was saying, like he actually looked around and he saw like these roots, and it was dark, but then he looked over and he saw a fire about a good 15 feet off to his right. So he thought his buddies, his brothers in arms came and picked him up,
Yeah.
But he noticed, he's like, this isn't right. I'm like in a cave or something. And then he looked over and he seen that same female Bigfoot attending to his leg, right? So he was like hurting at the same time. Well, she was chewing up some like plants or whatever, and she was putting it in his wound.
So like
Well,
medicine.
exactly, yeah, exactly same. Yeah, that's what she was doing. She was actually packing his wound, and she was using it as medicine. Well, he noticed like his wound was it wasn't hurting as bad. So then after that, he was, I guess he was so thirsty, and he actually signaled to that female to get him some water. So she looked over, whistled at this young one, brought him some water, and he drank it down, and then he passed out again. So basically, in a nutshell, after those creatures got him back upright and good to go, checked on his wounds and everything, fed him, kept him good. They helped him out of this cave, and this cave was tucked in this like holler, I should say, that had like a river, like a little
Yeah.
stream.
Yeah.
And they picked him up and they brought him all the way up to the top of the holler, and they just sent him on his way. Well, he looked back, and these creatures are just looking at him, and then he gestured at them as like, like thank you, and they just kind of just looked at him, and then he just turned around and disappeared. Well, he went walking back to over a Brice's Crossroads where all that stuff happened, right? And then he seen all his Confederate buddies picking up all the dead, right?
Yeah.
And they were just kind of like ignoring him as they were working, but he runs into like this captain, he said, and he told him the situation, and he's like, "Where the hell did you come from? Where's your weapon?" And he's like, "I lost it in the battle." He goes, "The battle? That was like 3 weeks ago." So this dude was getting
Yeah.
tended to and cared for like 3 straight freaking weeks, dude. But anyways,
Yeah.
yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. But then it talks about how he got older and then he just went back to that same area just to see if he's seen anything. But yeah, but this guy found like this diary in like this library, this old ancient library, and then he was reading it like verbatim. I'm like, that's a trip, dude.
That is
That was
insane.
interesting. Yeah.
That is insane. I mean, imagine having an encounter like that. I mean, I'll be probably sitting there like,
I know.
like freaking out.
I passed out. Like,
It's like, this ain't real. This isn't real. This isn't real.
I know, for real, dude.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I thought that was interesting.
that is insane, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't really heard an encounter like that when it came, during the Civil War, but in that area, I mean, there was several accounts of, soldiers seeing Bigfoot and down in the Mississippi, Alabama area, right in the woods.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there probably was some here in Tennessee as well. I'm not really 100% sure, to be honest with you. But I know quite a bit down in the Mississippi area.
Oh yeah, man, definitely a hot spot for that.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny is it kind of actually ties into the paranormal too. I'm gonna name off 10. Like I know you have. I know you in those circles you travel in, bro. I know there's so many ghost stories that all your buddies talk about.
There's one that I encountered myself, actually.
Okay. Before we get to that, I'm gonna name the 10, and then you run with your story, dude.
All
So
right.
okay, so I'm gonna name all these 10 Civil War ghost titles, I guess. So the Spirit of the Unknown Soldier, okay, is one of
I've
them. Yep.
heard about that one.
The Ghost of the Bloody Lane over in Antietam or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
over in Antietam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Antietam.
the Second Road area. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then your Union Soldier over at Fort Monroe, and
Okay.
then the Ghost of General Jeb Stewart.
See, that actually,
What?
I've heard of different accounts of actually people seeing the spirit of Jeb Stuart. And
Yeah.
Jeb Stuart was actually one of the, most well-known Confederate generals during the war, especially when it came to the Battle of Gettysburg up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He was heavily involved in that. But accounts when it came to his spirit, I've heard quite a bit, and quite a bit interesting ones too.
Yeah, man. And then let's see. And then the soldier's ghost over at Wheatfield, Gettysburg, and then the Phantom Drummer Boy over at Shiloh.
Yep.
And
I did
then,
not hear him.
Oh, he's
but
what?
I did not hear him, but I do know about that story because there's accounts where you can hear him kind of where I talked about in that area where Horse Nest is stuff, but also over in the Shiloh Church area.
Yeah.
But apparently whenever you hear it, it's just kind of faint. But you hear drums like I mean you hear that. It's like, whew, eerie.
That's a trip. Yeah. Yeah. And then the Ghost of Gettysburg, man. And then the lady in white over in Winchester.
Yeah. The Lady in White. I've seen accounts of that one too, and that one's actually a pretty good one as well. Lady in a full white dress, almost like a wedding gown.
Yeah, what's up with that? What's the backstory on
that? From what if I remember, I believe it was actually a woman who was accidentally shot during one of the battles over in Winchester.
Oh, kind of caught in the crossfire.
Exactly, and
gotcha.
A woman got caught in a crossfire in Gettysburg. Cannot think of her name, but it was actually a woman who decided to stay, and she was cooking and stuff, and then a bullet went straight through the door and knocked her and killed her. Yeah. That was up in Gettysburg. The one in Winchester, not really sure, but I know people say like they see a lady in almost like a white wedding dress type, an old 1860s dress. I mean, coming down like the stairs or just seeing her out like in windows and stuff like that. That right there is interesting in itself. I haven't seen it. I've not been in Winchester, but
Yeah,
but I've read different accounts of what, and I believe Ghost Adventures did an episode on that one time. I'm not 100% sure. I know they did an episode on Gettysburg, but Winchester, I'm not sure.
I got you, man. I got you. Let's dive into your encounter, bro, real quick.
So this actually happened at Fort Donelson.
Okay.
So the fort that I explained a few minutes ago, um, it was me and another reenactor from my unit, and we were doing artillery.
Mm.
This was in April of 2022. So it was a little after the 160, 160th, 161st. But we were at this little Boy Scout area. It was a mile down the road from the fort itself. And it was night. We were just sitting, had our tents up right by the river, and just hanging out, kind of smoking a cigar. We had our backs turned to the road because there was this road, long little road that led into the site.
Yeah.
And man, I just had the chills, man. Like, oof, something was like watching me. Looked behind me, and I saw this orange glow, almost like a fire type,
Yeah.
right? Swinging back and forth. And it was actually coming down the road where we came through, and it took a right, my right, into the woods.
Was it like an orb?
Almost like a lantern.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because how it was swinging back and forth, it looked like somebody was
Oh, like
swinging a
someone was
lantern.
walking and carrying it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, gotcha.
But at the same time, though, I felt like I saw. Now, I don't know if it was just my eyes playing tricks on me and stuff, but I swear, half of an apparition of a soldier in sky blue pants and brogans walking basically in front of me to the left and just disappeared.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Come to find out the next morning, park ranger told us where we were staying at was a contraband camp
Okay.
during the war. And that was actually a Boy Scout area that we were in that we knew nothing about.
Yeah.
There was a contraband camp, and there was supposedly an African American soldier, Union soldier, that was there doing like a night watch at the time, and actually had a lantern going around the camp. And there was Union soldiers actually in the camp as well. Apparently, is what I was told. I was like,
yeah,
that made it even weirder. I was like, holy crap. I was like, I just witnessed my first ghost. But like I have not had any other encounter though. I haven't had any encounters in Shiloh or in Stones or anywhere else. Surprisingly, Shiloh in itself, because Shiloh was one of the bloodiest battles during the war.
Yeah.
Same thing with Stones River. I mean, Stones River had 23,000 casualties as well here in Murfreesboro. So you would think that there's some paranormal activity.
Yeah.
And we can dive deeper in another episode about Stones River because there is a lot on that. But I did hear accounts of some actual ghost stories of Stones River and stuff, like people hearing gunfire, cannon shots, flutes. What some of the bands actually play.
Yeah.
Some people can hear that at night, whatnot. Some accounts that I've actually read on, but Fort Donelson though was my first encounter of the paranormal, and it was wild. It was wild, man, but cool at the same time because it's like, oh my god, I'm in my uniform. It's there. Oh,
yeah. What was the time when that was going on? Like roughly, like what time was it? You think
it was around 9-10 o'clock at night?
Okay. Yeah.
And what I've actually read before is that apparently, like running water can actually give off like good energy of spirits actually showing up.
Yeah.
Right.
To me, I think water is a big catalyst when it comes to spirits, demons, angelic stuff like that. It's almost kind of like a oh my gosh, I would say kind of like a portal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
where they can go in and out.
Yeah, and that's actually like what I've read on before as well. Is like the water is a portal. Thunderstorms are also a portal, like for spirits to show themselves too. Um, which there was one time where I was staying at one of the sites, and when it was thunderstorming and stuff, didn't see anything, but it just gave off that eerie kind of feeling, like you are being watched.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, like there's soldiers out there in the tree lines, like actually just staring at you, basically waiting for that attack. If that makes sense. And so I mean, I've had eerie feelings of that, but that night though at Donaldson is when I really had the encounter with, and that right there just changed my whole perspective of ghosts. Because I wasn't really a firm believer at first, but after that I was like, let's go hunt some ghosts.
At the time, was anybody with you?
Just one other guy, one other reenactor from my unit. Yeah, we were just.
Oh, yeah. So what was his reaction like?
He was a little freaked out too, and here I am over here like, hey, let's go chase that ghost. And he was like, are you crazy? He was like, you are out of your mind. Like,
yeah, what are you doing, Brice? What are you doing?
He's like, I like ghosts.
That's a trip, dude. That's awesome, man. That's cool, bro. So okay, so anything in the future coming up for you, man? Any more reenactments? Anything coming up in 2025?
Yeah, we do actually have quite a bit that we're doing here at Stones River. We got our anniversary event in December. We always do it in December 28th because that's when the battle happened. The battle happened December 31st till January 2nd. But we always do it like the weekend before or the weekend of New Year's. So believe it's the 28th and 29th this year in December that we're doing it. And we always do it at the battlefield.
Yeah.
We got actually 2 events of that. One in August and one in December over at Stones of the Living History. We always do artillery in around Mayish, June over here at Stones.
Yeah.
Kennesaw Mountain. It'll be the weekend of the June 21st, 22nd, around that weekend. Last year was the 160th anniversary of it, since that battle was fought in 1864. And that's really all I know of events wise. More will actually come out as the year goes on. I know we do got one in North Carolina coming up in March, the 160th anniversary of the Battle of Bentonville. Giving you a little background on that. One of the last battles of the Civil War, because the war ended a week later.
Yeah.
after that battle, late March into early April. So we're doing the 160th anniversary of that this year, and a lot of units are going to be showing up. I will unfortunately not be able to go, but because one, it's a 9-hour drive, and 2, with us working, I'm not really sure what March will hold. But that is really the only reenactment so far that I know of. They're also talking about doing the another battle in September. It'll be up in Kentucky. Do not know at the top of my head right now, but once I get more information, I can send it to you and let you know. But that's supposed to be another big one as well this year. And apparently a reenactment that we haven't done in about 15 years.
Yeah.
In September. So other than that, that's all I know right now of reenactment wise and living history wise.
Roger that, man. Roger that. Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. I gotta have you back on, man, for sure. And like you said, we'll do like a part 2 of Murfreesboro and what you talked about, and then I'm gonna have D come on with us. So
definitely
bring his energy, man, for sure.
Like I said, I mean, I can give next time I can give a whole thing about the Battle of Stones River, about Murfreesboro in general of the war. So Fort Donelson was just only a little taste.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. And not only that, I'll bring like my buddy Brian on. He actually ghost hunted a lot over there.
Okay.
And he's seen some stuff, dude. He's seen some
stuff.
Yeah.
That
I'm pretty sure you guys would click up pretty good. So, yeah,
I'm sure, especially after my experience at Fort Donelson, man. I mean, yeah.
that's awesome, dude. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you, man. You'll probably wrap it up here pretty quick. If people need to get a hold of you, ask questions, look you
Yeah.
up, anything like that, where can people find you at, man?
So Instagram, you can find me at Brice Witherow, BriceWitherow. Same thing on Facebook. Find me there as well, Brice Witherow. You can follow me, ask me questions if you have anything about history, World War II, Civil War, World War One related, anything. I'm all ears. I'm always down to ask questions, answer questions. So give me a follow in there.
Roger that, man. Roger that. I'm gonna leave you with a little quick nugget. When it wasn't Caesar, when it was gosh, let me pull it up real quick. It was I have it written down on my notes right here. Because one of my buddies, he is a big war fanatic too, but he does a lot of like Roman times, stuff like that. Okay. Alexander the Great, brother. Okay, so Alexander the Great with Crassus, he actually had you ever heard of the cytosyphili?
I've heard of it.
Okay. Of like men with dog heads? Yes. So
like 2 or 3 dog heads. Or was it?
Well, it was actually like a whole army of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah. So yeah, I'll send you some stuff. Anyways, yeah. So I'll leave it off on that. But other than that, dude, I will send you. It wasn't a podcast. It was actually a YouTube episode that this guy was reading from that diary. I'll send you that and stuff too. But Brice,
Sweet.
man, dude, I appreciate you, man, coming on. We'll definitely get you plugged in again for sure, dude. So.
Oh yeah, no, I'm glad I could express my information, to the world and everything about Fort Donelson and just what I know and stuff. It was really fun, man. I enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, man, I appreciate you, dude. But yeah, other than that, I'm gonna have all of the information and stuff like in the bottom of the show notes whenever I release the podcast. So other than that, man, yeah, I appreciate you coming on, dude. Don't go anywhere yet. I'm gonna end it and then we'll chit chat a little more before you go.
Sweet. All right, man.
All right, guys. I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, if you guys got any questions for Brice or anything like that, I will plug all his information in the show notes. Hit him up. This guy's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all the battles and the wars and stuff like that. So I call this guy like a war historian. So an encyclopedia. So if I need to know anything, I'm like, hey, Brice, what about this? And he's like, sprats off stuff. So.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, man. But anyways, yeah, appreciate you guys. You guys got any questions? Hit me up also. If you guys got any experiences or stories like that, hit me up, cryptidwarfare@gmail.com. That's cryptidwarfare@gmail.com. If you guys got any prayer requests, anything, let me know. Hit me up. We'll chit chat. So anyways, I appreciate you guys hanging out. You guys got anything, let me know, and I will chat with you all later. Peace.